Good morning and welcome to the very first entirely online remote Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. We ask for your forgiveness in advance of any glitches. We, like so many, are doing things for the first time in a new way. We have our amazing Sean Bartel and AV team behind us here, but we are all learning that perfection is overrated, and what really matters is our connection with each other. So this is live streamed, but it is also available via the radio locally in Urbana at 104.5, that's WRFU. And it can also be audio streamed at wrfu.net. Our mission as a church is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. And in that spirit, we are so happy that you have found us this morning from near or far away. I am Reverend Florence Caplow. I am the minister of this church, coming to you from my sun porch. I have the pleasure today of hosting our guest speaker, Denise Colley, and her words will come from her home in Wisconsin. She is a Unitarian Universalist minister in preliminary fellowship. She will be graduating from Meadville Lombard with a Master's of Divinity later this year. And she serves as the intern minister at Bradford UU Community Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. If you hear some noise in the background, that is the wind blowing around my sun porch. Also, Denise Colley is a wonderful artist, which you will see throughout the service. If you have a joy or sorrow to share today, please email me at joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. You will see that link at the bottom of your screen during the prelude, and then I can read it aloud during our Joys and Sorrows time. We are truly a purposeful and resilient community, and we are here to take care of each other and to be of service in whatever ways we can to the larger community during this time. I found a poem this week that really resonated with me today. You'll see why. It's called "The Church Has Left the Building" by Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not only a steeple above the tree line, streets, and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person, linked with person, linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities, a community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. And now I invite you to sit back, take a deep breath, and listen to our prelude played by our assistant music director, Matthew Gladden. Thank you, Matthew, for that beautiful music. You may notice that he is playing in our sanctuary. He went in on his own earlier this week and recorded. Again, we are trying to minimize the number of people that are in the building at one time, but he felt that you needed to hear the beautiful piano in our sanctuary. Each Sunday, we offer a land acknowledgement to the indigenous nations of this place, but we're recognized that now those of you who are listening are in many different places. So we invite you to bring to mind the indigenous peoples of your place. If you know their names, bring to mind those names as we share this land acknowledgement. And there will be a moment of silence after the acknowledgement. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather on indigenous land taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacement and oppression of Native people and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and the protection of our world. Thank you. And now I'd like to offer these chalice lighting words, which you will see on your screen. They were written by our guest, Denise Colley. If you have a chalice yourself, please feel free to light it at this time. This is how we will be doing it in our future services. As the chalice is lit, let the cares of the day fall away. Take a pause, breathing into our true selves. Spiritual practices in community strengthen us. Let the warmth of the chalice connect to the light inside of us. And now please sing along with our choir director, Austin Cody, for one of our favorite hymns, Spirit of Life. The lyrics will be on your video screen.
Denise, and I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, and this is my son,
Aiden, and I am also a Unitarian Universalist member.
Yeah, you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And today we are going to talk about spiritual practices, and they are so important, especially during this time of a lot of us having to stay in our homes together with our families and not go out in order to protect everybody. Spiritual practice. And we're going to do art because it's a more fun way to do that.
It is very fun. I love art.
You love art? Mm-hmm. Me too. So a spiritual practice is anything where you do it and you do it every day, and when you do it, your mind can wander. It might be like walking the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It could be doing dishes.
Mm-hmm.
It could be drawing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Or painting or reading sometimes, but reading doesn't always let your mind wander. Often it's a form of meditation. We do that sometimes,
I think
right?
it does because you can like read and picture it in your own way than like the other person next to you reading the book might think.
Okay, that's a really good example. Would swimming or working out, or you like to fish, that's definitely a spiritual, yeah.
Fishing's very fun.
So those are all spiritual practices. They're things you can do over and over, and you do them at least a couple times a week. It's the repetition that makes the spiritual practice a practice. Because everyone's sheltering in place right now, we are going to make some chalices. Can you show them the chalice you're working with? They all have one of those too. What we're going to do is we're going to have people write their name or their favorite spiritual practice in each one of these. So it might say belly dancing or woodworking or walking or, doing the dishes or breathing 10 times in a row. You could have making your bed as a spiritual practice. So it just depends on what might be a spiritual practice for you. And this is an activity we can all do. I'm going to do one too. I know some of you have done this exercise before church, and kids, I need to make sure you tell your grown-ups they have to do this exercise too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all the grown-ups that have done it with their kids ended up really enjoying it, and we're going to show you some pictures of those. We're going to show you ours right now. I should go first? This is mine. And mine has on it a lot of things to help keep me centered. Because as we go through coronavirus, we're going to need to do things to take care of each other. And it's really important that you get your grown-ups to do these things too, because they need help right now because they're not used to knowing how to play. And we all need to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What does your chalice have on it? What are you filling your cup of love with, Aiden?
So I tried to make it look like clouds for my words.
Nice.
My spiritual practices. And then I just started kind of doing my own thing with these.
Yeah, the flames to light your spiritual practice up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Because our chalice is our cup of love, right? What do you have on your list?
I have reading, praying, cooking, basketball, art, dogs, music, and cooking. I think I already said that.
You want to cook a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. I have remembering to breathe, and I want to remember beauty. Beauty's really important to me, and making art and doing gratitude lists. I think that it's really important that you put this somewhere where you can see it. It could be on the inside of your bathroom door, or it could be on your fridge, or where could you put yours, Aiden?
In a frame.
In
on
a
the wall.
frame on the wall. What a good idea.
Or when you're in bed, put it on the ceiling, so then when you go to bed, you look up and see your spiritual practices.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Spiritual practices are to keep us well during this time. And we want to bid you lots of peace, deep breaths, and to send out love into this world, because as we go about doing our ministry and how we share ourselves with each other. We have choices on whether we smile and whether we laugh and tell jokes and do other things that help us have amazing spiritual practices.
Amazing.
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 To care for ourselves during these times. So, I bid you love. And next time I see you, I want to see your pictures. Feel free to send them in to me too. Okay?
Bye.
Well, thank you, Denise and Aiden. That was fantastic. And if some of you are thinking, but wait a minute, I didn't have a chance to download and print out a chalice and do all that, you will find the directions for making your own spiritual practices chalice on our website. If you look under this service, you will see a link for it. You will also see a link for it on our live stream page. So if there are kids watching today and you're not sure you want to listen to the rest of the service, you could print that out and have fun with it right now. And I will make sure that that whatever you take a picture of and send to me, that it gets to Denise and Aiden as well. Thanks so much. During our Community Matters time, we hold up our interdependence and interconnectedness with everything. And I just want to remind us that by all of us staying home, and I mean really staying home, really being what we in Zen call impeccable around this staying home order, staying home this morning and upcoming Sundays, by closing our beloved church building, we are practicing our principles of caring and compassion. We are protecting the most vulnerable among us, which is also very much part of our values as Unitarian Universalists. We are protecting each other, and that's a major thing. And we are protecting the larger community, because if we all stay healthy, then we will help each and every person who does end up in the hospital with this have a chance for what they need. We have already started ways that you can connect with us virtually. You can join together with me and others for worshipful listening and check-in on Mondays and Thursday nights at 5:30. It really is 5:30. I managed to sow confusion by saying 5:15, 5:30. You can join our buddy system, where you commit to checking in with each other for mutual support and safety. You can do all that online. You can join our mindfulness group on Sunday mornings and Tuesday evenings. Michelle Grove has set up some wonderful opportunities for adults and families, so take a look at that. And also, at 10 a.m. each morning, I or another staff person are offering just a very few minutes, a little video of inspiration for you, for your day. And that's available on our Facebook page and also on our website. So I hope you're able to connect with that, and that provides a little extra lift to your day. Also this week, we will be starting a new opportunity for all, which is a 24/7 warm line that's being staffed by about 16 people, staff and volunteers. So a place where you can call if things get overwhelming in some way, or you're really struggling in some way, or you're trying to figure out what you need to do or need resources in the community. We will be a source of information and listening and support for you. So look for more information about that on Monday. Again, for any of these, please just go to our website to learn more, or our Facebook page, and all of this is open to all, near or far away. Today, after the service, for the second time, we will have a virtual fellowship hour via Zoom. This is our plan going forward. And also today, after the service, at about 11:45, you can gather virtually to learn more about our 9 visions for the future as part of our strategic planning, led by Dream Team member Becky Densmore. And to find out how to get to that meeting, look in your e-news this week and you'll find it. Our church building may be closed, but the spirit of our church is still burning very brightly, and we love you. We are continuing our tradition of shared offerings, even in this remote world now. And as many of you know, each Sunday we do share our Sunday offering with organizations that are in alignment with our values and that are voted on each year. So for March, our shared offering is the Randolph Street Community Garden, which is actually quite close to my heart. It's a wonderful place in what is considered a food desert in North Champaign. It is a place where people can grow their own fresh organic vegetables, where the community can gather. It's a place where the community can mourn losses, and it's a teaching garden for both adults and children. We are working hard, your financial people, to have a way to donate by text, but for now, the only way that you can support our shared offering, as we do on Sundays when we gather together, is through an online donation or sending a check in to our office. The online donation link you will see on your screen during the offertory. Please just jot it down. It takes a little while to actually make that all happen, and then you could go after the service and make a donation to the Randolph Street Garden or to our general fund if you wish. It is so important, more important than ever, to support our shared offering organizations at this time. Thank you. The offering will now be received. Thank you, Matthew, for that beautiful music, and thank you all for your generosity, expressed in this and so many other ways. Each Sunday we bring our individual joys and sorrows with us to the Sunday service. And I invite you, wherever you are listening or watching today, to bring to mind the joys and sorrows of your life and those you are concerned for this morning as we sing our blessing song. The words of our song will appear magically on your video stream. You can sing along or just let the words wash over you as a blessing. Well, thank you to all who sent in your joys and sorrows today. I'm going to be retrieving them from two different places, so be patient with me here, but I'll share these now. From Emily McCown. Grateful for so many things this morning. Grateful for my health. Grateful for the support of this community. I feel the guidance of my elders at UUCUC holds me steady as I look to lead Channing Murray to provide emergency food service. This morning, I feel truly grateful to call Urbana my home, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. This truly is a resilient and courageous community. From Aaron Dittmer, sorrow for the students who are missing out on important experiences during this chaotic time. Joy for all the flowers blooming and the trees budding. Joy for the smell of rain. Joy for all the sunshine I've seen in the West Urbana Neighborhood Association windows. From Randy Locke, a joy. In this time of transition, I am grateful to Reverend Kaplow and the fantastic UUCUC staff. I will second that on the staff. I am also grateful to all of the UUCUC volunteers that continue to find new ways to connect and serve their groups, the church, the community, and each other. You all are inspirations of incredible strength, compassion, and resilience in the face of challenge. From Carla Peterson, a sorrow. Brother-in-law died last night in St. Paul, Minnesota, after long struggle with many health issues. Thoughts and prayers to my sister Mary and the entire family. From Amy Robeson, joy for music. Kudos to our technical wizards and amazing music director for capturing the sound of our sacred space. Please continue to bring us the music that feeds our souls. From Linda Owens, sorrow that we emerge from this pandemic, that we emerge from this pandemic with a saner and more compassionate system of governance and healthcare. Amen to that. From Sam Bashir's, joy for the ways people are finding community and ways to be together. It is inspiring to hear the ways that people are looking out for one another and particularly for those at risk. Sorrow for those who work to divide us. They shall fail. And from Becky Densmore, our congregation is so very fortunate to have the incredible support of our staff and volunteers who work diligently to keep us connected and help us achieve some sense of normalcy. With heartfelt gratitude, please know your efforts make all the difference. We have a few more here. I think maybe actually, do you know what? Actually, those were it. I thought they were in two places, and it turns out that they all came into my phone. So that's wonderful. And whatever else that you are carrying in your heart this morning, and I know that we are all carrying many, many joys, sorrows, fears, angers. As the wind blows out my window, I feel like the wind is also blowing in our hearts. So please bring those to mind with compassion and care as we have a time of reflection, prayer, meditation, holding each other close across these distances. Our first reading today was, both of our readings today were chosen by our guest, Denise Colley. Our opening reading comes to us from the great 19th century Unitarian minister, really founder of Unitarianism in America, William Ellery Channing. In the morning, there is much to feed the spirit of devotion. It offers an abundance of thoughts, friendly to pious feeling. When we look on creation, what a happy and touching change do we witness. A few hours past, the earth was wrapped in gloom and silence. There seemed a pause in nature. But now a new flood of light has broken forth, and creation rises before us in fresher and brighter hues, and seems to rejoice as if it had just received birth from its author. The sun never sheds more cheerful beams and never proclaims more loudly God's glory and goodness than when he returns after coldness and dampness of night and awakens man and animals to the various purposes of their being. A spirit of joy seems breathed over the earth and the sky. It requires little effort of imagination to read delight in the kindled clouds or in the fields bright with dew. This is the time when we can feel and bless the power which said, "Let there be light," which set a tabernacle of the sun in the heavens and made him the dispenser of fruitfulness and enjoyment through all the regions. Now please enjoy this beautiful offering on meditation on breathing from our youth coordinator, Emily McCown. She hopes you will join in.
Good morning. Music for me is a spiritual and meditative practice, and it's a privilege for me to share it with you this morning. This is a song a lot of us love, out of the Teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing. So I invite you to sing with me. It's 3 easy parts, or just let it wash over you. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out loud. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out in, I breathe out loud. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, breathe out. Blessed be.
Thank you, Emily, for that beautiful meditation. Our second reading comes to us from contemporary UU minister, Reverend Marisol Caballero, who begins with a quote from Martin Luther. God writes the gospel not in the Bible alone, but also on trees and in the flowers and clouds and stars. Reverend Caballero continues, I have begun to pray recently. This may sound odd coming from a minister, but as much as I adore leading prayer in front of a congregation on the state capitol steps or at a patient's bedside, I've always held a certain amount of shame that prayer isn't central to my spiritual practice. Perhaps shame isn't the word. It might be more like envy. I want to be good at it. I'm under no theological pressure to keep up a prayer life. I don't believe that a God will smite me if I don't engage in regular conversation. In fact, I'm comfortably perched on the fence about God. That is, if by God we're talking about a noun. I lose interest the minute that God is spoken of as an enormous celestial ATM who doles out rewards to some and punishment to the kids who are too busy to call home every once in a while. Yet I appreciate the word God for the sake of common vocabulary. It's a good universal shorthand to describe the little moments in our daily life that smack us into paying attention. Hey, this right here, this moment, joined with all such tiny moments, is why you're alive. This is holy. Here it is. I love the word prayer over meditation because often the latter is used to describe an emptying of one's mind. And I'm looking to deliberately fill mine up. In understanding what I'm doing as prayer, I place myself in the company of souls throughout the millennia who also hoped, cried, were sickened with worry, loved desperately, and felt impossible levels of joy. I join those who have reached into their chests, yanked out their hearts, and offered them to this world. When I try to do it, my mind drifts. But I sit in my hammock under a big old oak and notice that when I look up from my day and reach right in, my heart is filled with so much God.
When my son was born, many people visited and often were full of advice. Much of the guidance I received was kind and helpful. One person in particular came to visit, an old professor of mine, who gave me a lesson I will never forget. I'm going to share it with you now. Her story is one I have told over and over and over. During her visit, we walked around my home. I showed her the quilts and the baby clothes and the decor that I had made for my baby. She held our son, rocking and talking to him. She then looked at my wife and I and said, I can tell by who you are and how you do everything else that you are going to be first-class moms. You will go on all the field trips. You will make your own baby food. You're breastfeeding this child. You will be involved in all the homework and clubs. You will make big sacrifices in order to give him a great education and involve him in all the extracurricular activities he's interested in. I can see you're going to fully immerse yourselves in parenting. And I'm going to tell you something. You still need to take care of yourselves. You need to go on dates. You need to work out. You need to go on walks. Aim for pathetic. Pathetic dates, pathetic walks, pathetic exercise. Have pathetic sex, she said. At least then you're doing those things. If you aim for pathetic, you can at least make time and approach them in ways that you can achieve. It'll be a lot easier. You might achieve more than pathetic. You might not. If your goal is pathetic, you will accomplish it. If you aim to do everything in life in the same triumphant manner you've approached parenting, you might not do them at all. Aim for pathetic. I was stunned by this conversation. I couldn't believe the best I could hope for was pathetic. I didn't understand how many years parenting would be all-consuming. I didn't know then that my family would have the many stresses that I would come along. Along the way, I figured out that my old professor was right. I needed to try to do things that I wanted to do, but pathetically. Over the years, I'd tried to keep up various spiritual practices. I'd tried walking, meditating, praying, yoga, art making, quilting, knitting, learning how to do new tracks and new tasks in order to enhance my spiritual life. Probably there's 20 other things I can't even recall. Some lasted years, some lasted months, some weeks, and I would reminisce and I would think of myself as a failure. Why did I quit? In all of these activities, I aimed really high. I came up with actions for my spiritual practice that I had to do multiple times a week for hours at a time. I often loathed myself for not keeping up with lap swimming or quilting, art making. Why couldn't I keep doing them, I wondered. With parenting, working, and all the unexpected things in life, adding 6 to 10 hours a week for spiritual practice and fulfillment was totally unreasonable. None of these practices took into account how I would do them when illness or stress or death came along. I certainly hadn't designed them for a pandemic. None were flexible enough. Not the way I set them up. I couldn't take them on the road. If I had to travel or work extra hours, they just vanished from my repertoire. I would leave myself feeling guilty, giving self-deprecating thoughts about why I couldn't achieve my spiritual practice. I thought of myself as a failure. When I started seminary, one of the first lectures I had was How to Begin a Spiritual Practice by Reverend Arvid Straube. It was required that every seminarian have a spiritual practice. I contemplated all the failed attempts and I realized that if I had to have a spiritual practice, the best I could attain was pathetic. Pathetic effort would be my goal. Short intervals with repetition. In this time of coronavirus and sheltering in place, now is the time for pathetic spiritual practice more than ever. Now, what is spiritual practice, you might ask? Spiritual practice is an activity where your mind can wander, where a repetition of sound or frequency of movement, prayer or meditation can allow your mind to go and exercise and let ideas come to it. The easiest way to think of it is an activity that is such that it can be done without concentration. Then the spiritual practice is one that can be done repeatedly, multiple times a week. That's when you truly benefit. If you have ever driven somewhere and don't recall how you got there, you had your first taste of spiritual practice. If an idea came to you when you washed the dishes, or weeded the garden, or took a walk on a familiar path, your mind worked out things and ideas that you were considering. You experienced the benefit of spiritual practice. Frequently, parents will tell me that they get their best ideas when they have a moment alone in the bathroom or in the shower. If your mind has wandered and you have whet your appetite for spiritual practice, now is the time to make that a true practice. You can go from it being happenstance to a practice you can benefit from. First, you need to pick something or a few things, just a few, that you can do anywhere, whether you're sheltering in place or have your freedom of full movement. Meditation and prayer need no tools or supplies and can be completely portable. There are even apps available and thousands of books in the library. Writing in a journal upon waking or bedtime, much like Channing did in our reading, is a simple tool. One of my friends purposely changes her handwriting as she writes a few verses each morning or evening in order to change her mind. Often you can make it a practice if you commit to writing just one page in your journal, just one page in your book. Just commit to doing it. Maybe you want to walk or do some form of exercise. Ideally, you want something that doesn't require you to think too hard, doesn't require you to go to a special place. I've noticed that I can't walk on rocky paths because then I have to concentrate really hard about where I'm stepping. If I walk on familiar paths that I know, my feet just take me along and my mind can wander. It is then that movement lulls me into the meditation. Even when I walk along beaches along Lake Michigan, I find myself returning to the same paths I know. That way, my thoughts can drift, and the repetition of the lake lapping on the shore will melt away the noise. Remember, you want a pathetic goal when you start. For those of you who have the chalice handouts, you can jot that down now, write it on a slip of paper. You want to give yourself a plan. Think about what you want to try to do for your spiritual practice and be judicious in your goal. Keep it simple. How many times a week will you do it? The frequency is far more important than duration. So rather than telling yourself you will meditate twice a day for 30 minutes, get realistic. Get pathetic. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to really have a habit down. Try 10 minutes 5 times a week. Write that on your chalice handout or on a slip of paper. Think about if there are any teachers or coaches, people in this congregation you could enlist to help keep tabs on you. If you can be accountable to someone in your family or one of your friends, you can really deepen your spiritual path. And we need that right now. Sometimes I only walk for 10 minutes, or I only draw for 5 minutes. I'll go and I'll see the lake, I'll snap a few pictures, I'll look at the trees, and I move on. When I started my spiritual practice, I realized the more I did this, the more I grasped what I was doing. It felt good. I would try it again. The ideas would come. I would feel refreshed. I started to realize the gift of spiritual practice. Occasionally, I would spend longer. Yet regardless of how long I spent, I felt that magic of meditation. I would rest and be refreshed, just like those waves lapping on the shore. All this in 5 or 10 minutes. If you have been interested in a deeper, richer spiritual life, this is the next stage in your development. Meditation of all sorts has proven benefits in numerous studies. New brain imaging technology is showing that practicing meditation frequently can actually remodel our brains. This creates calmer beings, kinder and less stressed out and anxious people. I can't think of a better time to start some kind of meditation practice. Any amount done a few times a week will be the foundation of your spiritual practice. Consider some of these different meditative practices and jot the ones down that you could commit to in this next month. It could be writing or journaling, making art or dancing, strength training, prayer, meditative yoga, sacred song or chanting, gratitude practices, knitting, carving wood, drawing, painting, yoga, Pilates, cardio training, sweeping, raking, doing yard work, Tai Chi, coloring, crafting, martial arts, doing sports. Now that you've jotted down 1 or 2 practices, note for yourself how long you could do it for. 5 minutes each morning. Sometimes it has a couple of forms it takes. COVID or not, aim for pathetic. When you do your spiritual practice, mark the date and time and duration on your sheet. Keep it somewhere you see it, whether it's on your fridge or your medicine cabinet. When I'm in meetings, I often draw very quickly. And when I get done drawing for 5 or 10 minutes, I look down and I'm often surprised. I've had a spiritual practice that enabled me to listen more clearly and be more present. Often when I'm moving my hands across a page, I can hear the people in the meeting and take in what they're saying without being judgmental or jumping to conclusions. I walk in nature, I take photos, and when I draw, I use those photos and those walks to guide me. I often stop and practice gratitude. What am I thankful for today as I'm in nature? When the weather is bitter cold, I might get outside only for a few minutes. I might have to rely on photos I took with my phone. It doesn't matter, but this sense of spiritual practice keeps me going. It keeps me practicing no matter the weather, no matter the tragedy, no matter the celebration. It's important to remember you can't really be spiritual without a community. We crave community, and that's so hard right now. The American ideas of accomplishing everything by ourselves are the antithesis of what our spirit needs. We crave humans. Trying to be spiritual alone skips the checks and balances that practicing in community can bring. With this pandemic, we are going to have to be creative about how to be in community with one another. We can't go to public classes, but we can meet on Zoom. We can't go out and walk in groups of friends, but we can call them. Can you put pictures of your walks or pictures of your knitting or your weightlifting onto social media and ask people to keep you accountable? Consider addressing your spiritual practice in your chalice circles or covenant groups. This community that you're in right here, this is the best place for you to start with your spiritual practice. And we need these more than ever. Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh says, a lone practitioner is an ex-practitioner. Sometimes I create an altar to guide me in my spiritual practice, and that doesn't have to be elaborate either. Put a few things on a table by your entrance. Put special mementos there. Authors Murphy and Leonard write in The Life We Are Given, when wisely pursued, such practices bestow countless blessings. If we do not obsess about their results, they make vehicles of grace, and they reveal unexpected treasures. In this, they often seem paradoxical. They require time, for example, but frequently make more time available to us. They also can slow time down and open us up to that timeless moment for which we have arisen. They require sacrifice, but they restore us. While demanding relinquishment of established patterns, they open us up to new love, new awareness, new energy. What we lose is replaced by new joy, new beauty, and new strength. They require effort, but they become effortless. Demanding commitment, they eventually proceed like second nature. They need a persistent will, but after a while, they flow unimpeded. Where they are hard to start, they eventually cannot be stopped. Where they are hard to start, eventually they cannot be stopped. I urge you to begin your spiritual practice today or recommit to one. Remember the advice of my old professor. Aim for pathetic. Spiritual enlightenment comes to us when we are in action, and ours is a faith of action. Even for just 5 minutes, aim for pathetic. The results will be, I promise you, anything but.
Thank you, Denise Colley, for your offerings to us today, feeding our spirits, reminding us of our pathetic possibilities, and nurturing us in this difficult time. A friend of mine, a nurse practitioner in New Mexico, told me the other day that she finds herself weeping unaccountably, at least once a day, sometimes more. Maybe you are finding that too. Maybe that is part of your pathetic spiritual practice. Tears, or at least sadness, at a time like this seem completely appropriate, with tides of suffering spreading across the world. Next week, our service will be on the theme of lament, so that if we need to cry, we can cry together. But for today, I want to offer a poem by John O'Donohue. This is the time to be slow. Lie low to the wall until the bitter weather passes. Try as best as you can not to let the wire brush of doubt scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. If you remain generous, time will come good, and you will find your feet again on fresh pastures of promise, where the air will be kind and blushed with beginning. There is a chalice extinguishing that, as I've said, I would like us to do together each week until we are truly together in person again. And when we say it from our separate spaces, all over the world at this point, let's mean it. Let's send it out as a blessing and a promise. Please join me for these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I also invite you to join our Zoom meeting.